of the IAC year. So look at the attendance today. We've got great attendance. I'm so excited to see that. And that's because we have two phenomenal speakers here in a little bit, in about a half an hour. We had Mike Brown, the CIO of ICE, and Russ Roberts, the acting CIO of TSA. And on top of that, we're going to have a reception after the business meeting to honor both Kevin Newell-Page and Tom Sharp for their work as in the federal government. Both of them were at GSA before they retired, so we're excited to do that today. And I'm pleased to say that they're both IAC members now with their new company. That's wonderful. So before I move into the business portion of the meeting today, can I find out who's here for the very first IAC event ever? Well, welcome. We're so glad to have you. And you'll have, so please, if you would, at the reception, come up and introduce yourselves to me. I'd like to meet you and talk to you about how you can really engage in ACT-IAC. There's a lot of board members here. There's the staff. So as you see the people here in the audience that are new, old-time ACT-IAC members, if you'll help them out and tell them what a great association this is, that would be really wonderful. So, one of the things about this membership meeting, for me personally, I've been a volunteer for ACT-IAC for 20 years now. I was a baby when I started. But it's a great way for me and all of us to connect with old friends and to meet new ones. Because we're part of a special industry. And we're all interconnected and we need each other. And ACT-IAC is a great place for that interaction. So it's been a busy time for us at ACT-IAC since our last membership meeting in May. We have can we put the agenda up? I want to show we got a really full agenda. These are some of the important things that we've been working on. Professional development, Malcolm will do that. He's the board member in charge of that. Federal Insights Exchange is a new program that Jackie Everett will be talking about. Marty Cummings will be doing a conference and events update. Then Rich Patel will be doing a legislative update. And then Richard Spires will we're developing a strategic plan. He'll do a brief update on that. We're going to do more on that in November. And then Richard is going to moderate our DHS panel. Then we'll move into the networking reception. To start with, I'm happy to announce that we have 36 new member companies. And we're going to put the name. We've got too many. Too many for me to name. And we actually have a second slide. So if there's anybody here from any of those new member companies, would you please stand so we can recognize you? And these lucky guys got a free drink ticket. Next thing so welcome very much to our new members. Next I want to just go up some of our upcoming events. We've got a lot going on, as we always do. Just kind of highlight some of them. You can see them on the list. There's actually two slides of list. On October 3rd, we're going to be doing our Shared Services Summit, and that's a little different. We're going to partner with AGA and the Shared Services Leadership Coalition, and that is downtown at the Washington Convention Center. Then the Small Business Alliance, which has a lot of different events, is going to have an event called Congratulations, You Graduated. What's next? I don't really think I need to say much about that. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. So that one is going to be a great event too. Then we're going to have our COI events. You know, there are 10 communities of interest. That's the community of interest, or where our intellectual capital resides. Those community of interest have monthly meetings on October 10th. If you're interested in IT modernization, COI, that event will be held, that monthly meeting will be held on the 10th. We're going to have an October Weaning event, which is an event of professional development that Malcolm will discuss a little bit later. And we're also going to have our Artificial Intelligence Forum. That's going to be held at the Renaissance in Washington, and that's going to educate attendees on how our government is using artificial intelligence to support their core mission and operations. We'll be doing the Cloud Computing Essentials. That's actually a learning tree event. And then involving the Workforce COI, and then lifting the curtain, requirements gathering and federal acquisition. That one is going to be downtown as well. It's going to be an interactive panel of government and industry participants to provide insights on how each side contributes to the requirement development process. They've been working really hard on that. Then the next slide. Then some more COIs, Small Business Alliance monthly. So you can see new members there. That's just in a month. you can see how much there is to do at ACT-IAC. I have to kind of jump right down, though, and say executive leadership, October 29th through the 31st. Who here has signed up for the ELC conference? Okay, who's going that's not signed up for the ELC conference? This probably should I have asked. So Marty's going to be talking about ELC 2017 a little bit later. And then next, one of the great things we also do at these membership meetings, it's our chance to thank the volunteers that do the hard work to put on the programs that we all benefit from as members of this association. Without these volunteers, we could not do all we do for our industry and government membership. So the volunteers that we're going to recognize today, they've been recommended by the leadership of the various committees. So I'm going to start out recognizing volunteers who supported the Small Business Alliance, Nexus, the Institute for Innovation, and the Communities of Interest. And so as I call your name, if you'll come up, I know we don't have everybody here, but if you're here, if you'll come up, we're going to give you a plaque. We want everybody to stay up here and be recognized as a group, and then we're going to go into another set. So Dale Ludicky and Cindy Thomas, if you come up. Either of you guys here? There's Dale. There's Cindy. Recognized for their help with the Department of Defense Small Business Half-Day event. And that event focused on small business engagement with DoD, how they provide services and new technologies, how they could provide services and new technologies to support defense mission and acquisition. Dale, love you.
Good to see you.
And he also, afterwards, he didn't just leave the event, afterwards, he continued to push the DoD agenda about at ACT-IAC. That's one of the things we want to get. We want to get more DoD involvement. And so he made sure to collect lessons learned from all those who volunteered at that. And Cindy actually was integral in getting the speakers. So thank you very much, Dale. And Cindy, sorry, Cindy is not here. You want to stay here? Or, yeah, you stay up there. You get me. You don't. Then we have this, also from the Small Business Alliance, we have the Industry Day Best Practice White Paper Team, Doug Black. Where's Doug? Where's Doug? So Doug utilizes facilitation skills to structure the Industry Day Best Practice White Paper Team, and his dedication to this project will help the Small Business Alliance deliver an impactful white paper. So we appreciate Doug's work on that. Then we're going to talk about the Agile Small Business Alliance Agile Half-Day Forums in 16 and 17. I didn't see Linda. Is Linda Curitan here? Brent Mirabia. And I know Gisa's here. Gisa Sateri. So Linda was instrumental in planning both the Agile Half conferences, and Brent was also a member of the planning committee, and Brent was with OMB, and he did an outstanding effort to build interest and excitement through the government portion of that. Gisa served as the program chair for the Half-Day Forum in May. So thank you, the two of you. Next, we're going to move on to Nexus, their volunteer recognition from the Nexus organization. Is Juan Salazar here? Okay. Juan has just demonstrated his leadership through many different facets of Nexus. He is someone that always volunteers to support the Nexus programs and goes above and beyond by plugging into all of the Nexus initiatives wherever help is needed. So we appreciate Juan's help on that. Then we're going to recognize the volunteers for the Institute for Innovation's report to the President on IT modernization. I saw Vera here early, so I know Vera's here. Vera Ashworth, Stu Hammer here, and Danielle York. And this was a really important project. The MLB's draft report to the President on IT modernization was put out for comments, and it was actually a short turnaround, about 2 weeks, right before Labor Day. So after Labor Day, it got kicked off. The IT modernization COI led the effort. They coordinated with several other COIs to bring together the content. Then these people pulled it together, put it back out for comment, and did the final, and pulled together the final document. Additionally, Vera and Dan recommend, they actually had to present this paper and what our recommendations were to the combined ACT-IAC boards, and they just did that last week or the week. That was a really good job, so we really appreciate the work that you two did on that. That was really important for us, and hopefully we'll get visibility of ACT-IAC to OMB for our efforts on that. Then next, is Mia Wright here? We wanted to recognize Mia Wright as she was an outgoing community of interest talking about the IT modernization COI. Mia Wright was the past government chair, and had been the government chair since the IT modernization COI got stood up in 2016. So unfortunately, Mia's not here, but we appreciate her work on that as well. So those are for the first half. We'd like to recognize our volunteers and thank them for their hard work. To recognize the volunteers from the 2017 Management of Change Conference. That was near and dear to my heart. And there's a long list. I'm just going to briefly, there was a lot of people that actually volunteered for that, but we are going to recognize really the committee leads at this point. So for those of you who don't know, didn't attend Management of Change, Jonathan Allen was the government chair for the Management Change Conference. He did a great job. He's not here today to be recognized, but he did a great job for us. He was really interactive to help set that strategic agenda from the government side that we can implement. So he attended all the meetings and spent a lot of time with us. And then Leslie Berry, she was in charge of the CXO breakfast. Leslie, I've seen you. If you come on up, please. Stacy Bronstein, who helped with government outreach. Is Stacy here today? Paul Chandler, who worked on outcomes. And then Chasen, who was the plenary sessions. Pat Crobo, who was the industry vice chair. Will Brave, who was the government vice chair. Faye Farah, I know Faye is here. She was the Monday sessions and kept everybody in line. Andy Lieber helped us get our great keynote. Sandy Mestry was in charge of government outreach, and she's not here today. And Kathleen Turco, who did a great job for us leading the CFO plenary. And last but not least, Cheryl Walter, who helped with marketing and social media. So I'm going to let them all get up here. And for those of you who have not volunteered for a conference, it's a lot of work, but it really is very rewarding, isn't it, everybody? So let's thank our Management of Change volunteers. And I was the chair of the Management of Change Conference, so these guys and I worked together a lot, and I couldn't have done it without them. So now we're going to move on to some of our other very important topics. We're going to start out with Malcolm Harden, who is on the board, and he is in charge of professional development. It's a tremendous job. He works very hard, and we appreciate everything he does.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, you've heard of the fastest 2 minutes in sports. This will be the fastest 5 minutes in professional development. Okay. So ACT-IAC Professional Development, as you know, consists of associates, voyagers, and partners, along with the fellows community and the Nexus community. We'll touch each of them briefly. As Mitzi mentioned, our associates are putting together a fundraiser for Urban Ed called Octoberween, a creative combination of Oktoberfest and Halloween. And so on Tuesday, October 10th, they invite you to join them at Spider Kelly's in Clarendon to raise money for education in urban communities. As I say, making monster stride towards educational success. So please come out and support our associates. We're very proud of them in their ability to, or rather in their efforts to raise money for their charity. So please do support. This is a picture of our associates whom you will meet at the next membership meeting as they graduate. The pictures are all far too small for you to make out who they are, but are any of them in the room? Can we get a wave if there are any associates in the room? There we go. We've got a couple sitting together. Being watched closely by Ashley Nichols. Keep them in mind, please. Next up, congrats to our 2018 Voyagers class, whom we welcomed to professional development earlier in this week with a reception. It was a wonderfully attended reception. We had a great community turnout. Their chairs, Stacy Riggs from GSA and Mike Barrera from Gamma One, really did a good job in preparing them to go forward. Do we have any Voyagers out here today? We've got a couple. Congrats to you. Welcome to the ACT-IAC community. You are positioned for a fantastic journey, and I think this offsite that you'll be experiencing this weekend will lead you towards really terrific heights. I don't think we have many of our government Voyagers in the room, as this tends to be often. Oh, we've got one. That's right. I saw Marvin earlier. Marvin, give us a wave. Right, too. We had a very tremendous class of applicants this time. As usual, it was a very competitive process. Thanks to our government folks who applied. Again, as we always say with ACT-IAC Professional Development, if you see some folks who would benefit from walking in the other counterpart's shoes, whether they be industry or government, please do encourage them to apply. With government, we always put out that call because we know how difficult it can be to round up training dollars. So if you are industry and you do have government counterparts that you work with who mention to you, hey, we'd like to spread our wings as well, do mention ACT-IAC Professional Development. Okay, industry Voyagers. So we know we've got a few of these folks in the room. They're mostly industry folks in the room right now. These are some of the best and brightest from your companies. Please do provide them encouragement and support as they seek to broaden themselves. Please also do challenge them when you see them in the halls of your various companies. As you know, that they're on a journey of self-improvement. So thanks to them for undertaking this particular voyage, as it were. And of course, congrats to the partners class. When those of you who are going to ELC will see those partners in attendance, and we hope that you cheer pretty loud when their names are announced. I see a couple of them in the room. I give Clay Goldwine a wave, other partners in the room. You guys are coming to the end of the journey. You did get nice jackets. I did not get one. Very disappointing. Maybe next year. Christmas is coming. Next. Okay, speaking a little bit about Nexus, it's interesting because I got a question as soon as I walked in the room. Hey, Nexus, what's the difference between Nexus and Voyagers? Is it the same thing? What is it? Our Nexus community exists as a perpetual community of advice and guidance and cohort. Their mission dovetails nicely with the rest of ACT-IAC. They're building the next generation of leaders. They are early career to mid-career individuals who are seeking to broaden themselves out by finding each other and taking the opportunity to interact with the rest of the federal IT community. So their elements, connect, develop, learn, grow, lead, are aligned with, I think, their aspirations toward becoming high-impact professionals and folks who really make a difference in our community. So I'll tell you a little bit more about those folks. They are planners, they are type A's, and they have quite a few events. You can see over the past year, they've planned and executed a number of very, very worthwhile events, from philanthropy, Susan G. Komen, to getting together to share inspiration, by the frosty beverage, monthly happy hours. So I think you'll find that if you are looking for a place to fit within ACT-IAC, whether you are younger or more experienced, you'll find that you have a place to contribute They have a monthly membership, they have a mentorship program coming up where you can either mentor or be mentored. So there's a place for everybody that's part of this community. Again, various engagement opportunities, thought leadership, where I attended a wonderful Nexus event yesterday where Renee Wynn shared some of her wisdom with some of the Nexus community in a very intimate conversation. So I think you'll again find, if you visit the ACT-IAC website, learn more about their programming, you'll find their material interesting. Again, going forward, again, they are type A planners. We find in each month of the upcoming quarter, they're putting together some very worthwhile programming. If you want to, if you are looking for a mentorship opportunity, looking to share your wisdom, your experience with folks making their way up as part of the federal IT community, please do feel free to visit the ACT-IAC website or email Casey Harrison volunteer to provide some of your thoughts. And last but not least, do get involved. Please register. Get some of the Nexus materials via the ACT-IAC website, or again, you can email Casey for additional details. Now, I do not have a fellows slide in here, but I think every third person in the room is probably a fellow. So if you do, let's give sort of a big fellow. There we go. So if you're looking for folks who have seen and done many things about ACT-IAC and can really give you the benefit of their wisdom in how various interactions with ACT-IAC have sped their careers and changed the trajectory of their participation in the federal IT community, don't hesitate to have conversations with these folks. And again, I went through these things quickly, probably not quickly enough from some of the expressions I'm getting. But if you do have further questions, feel free to contact myself or Mitzi, who will tell you more about ACT-IAC professional development. Jackie?
Well, so let me be the first to say Happy New Year, starting October next week, right? We're all been very busy this last closing out this year. But what I want to talk to you is about a new program called Federal Insights Exchange. And this got started because of some input we got from all the members. And so with Mitzi's leadership and Tristan and Nancy, we're going to put together a program, and there's a committee associated with this program, to start bringing in our government counterparts to help learn about the new strategic directions they're going in, what programs they might have available, or things that they really need to get input from industry on as far as the way of thinking and what is going on within that organization. So we have our objectives up here so that it's collaborative, right? We want to create a forum that we can have these. And the forum or venues will be different, and they're not all going to be the same. And that's what Tristan is working on with the committees to figure out how we're going to do that. So we had a kickoff meeting in July. We kind of fed cheese and wined everybody and get them all loose and ready to go. And then we have put people in groups, and now we're focused on what we're going to run through October, November, and December. So today, you're going to have an example of what this exchange program is going to be like, and Mitzi's going to give that out for us. So, Tristan, would you like to stand up so everybody knows? So if there is a particular speaker or guest or information that you would like to have presented, you can talk to her, you can talk to me, or you can talk to April Davis. April? And she is in the back. Does everybody know who April is? Okay, next. All right, so we meet the second Tuesday of every month at 10 a.m. So give April a heads up that you're going to come, get involved, be active. Let's help drive this thing together. We're excited about it. There is so much activity happening in government and so much change in government that we want to be the first organization that they come to, or we exchange and help promote and move. That is our goal, and we plan to do it for the next 12 months. And so, just a little sneak preview, we're going to have a discussion in November on DHS Flash 2.0. So if you all can make it, that's it for me. Thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope that everyone has marked their calendar for October 29th to the 31st for the Executive Leadership Conference in Williamsburg. We have an outstanding program this year. It is our last time in Williamsburg. We had a lot of surprises for you in 2018 in Philadelphia, but we're going to close out with a bang in Williamsburg. And the reason why is because if you look at this leadership team, we have Renee Wynn from NASA as the government chair, Casey Coleman and Ted Davies as industry chairs. We're giving them a redo. They were the chairs when the hurricane ran us out of Williamsburg several years ago. So they're going to close us out in Williamsburg. We have a great team, and if you look at some of the next slide, some of the highlights, the tracks are mission engagement. To go along with our theme, Mission Possible, we have mission engagement, protection, and transformation. We're going to have our TED Talks, panels, the Innovation Zone, which has been so popular, is coming back. We have a great motivational speaker, Walter Bond, former NBA player. And on Monday evening, if you haven't seen Second City Works, you're in for a real treat. Be prepared to be entertained. And on Tuesday afternoon, we have our government-to-government session, which was a huge hit in MOC, so we're going to continue doing that. So please, registration is underway. Sign up, talk to your customers, bring your customers, and help us close out Williamsburg and get ready for Philadelphia. And one final note here. The deadline for nominations for the ELC Awards has been extended to next Friday. So think about worthy people and put in a nomination form and get it in by Friday. Thank you. See you in Williamsburg.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rich Butel. I am the designated swamp dweller for this organization. I spent the last couple of days tied up trying to figure out who President Trump's going to nuke first, the North Koreans or the NFL. And we have to figure out which is which. On the legislative and regulatory development front, I want to mention, and we're very happy to mention, that the Modernizing Government Technology Act was included as part of the Senate version of the National Defense Authorization Act about a week and a half ago. I can't tell you how many late nights and phone calls it took to get that through. That is hopefully a transformative piece of legislation to accelerate IT modernization by fixing the gap between maintaining legacy IT and moving to modern IT systems. I know Margie Graves has already done mock-ups and trial runs of the so-called murder board at OMB that agencies must apply to get the new money. It's split into two tranches, approximately $250 million this year and $250 next year for a total of $500. And I know agencies we're already getting a whole bunch of inquiries about how can I get my hands on this pot of money. Remember also that there are agency-specific working capital funds, and so the details of how that's rolling out is coming forward. Secondly, I wanted to mention that this organization submitted very thoughtful feedback to the folks at the American Technology Council, Chris Liddell's outfit, on the report to the President on IT modernization. These are on GitHub. I urge you to go take a look at it. 93 companies filed detailed comments on that report to the President on IT modernization, which will serve as a backstop and a framework moving forward. I also wanted to mention that on September 13th, DoD issued a memorandum from Mr. Shanahan, who is now the Deputy Secretary of Defense, setting up a cloud executive steering group to serve as the gatekeeper and consolidator for enterprise-wide DoD cloud deployment. This group, with members from the Defense Innovation Board, DIOX, Raj Shah, and others, will now serve as a central point of contact to harmonize and rationalize DoD's strategic planning in terms of cloud deployment and acquisition. And lastly, as a matter of regulatory update, yesterday GSA issued their new guidelines on cloud acquisition called the CASTLE, the Cloud Adoption Survival Tips, Lessons Learned, and Experiences Guide. That was an interagency group led by David Gray, which now recommends that cloud be acquired using firm fixed price, labor hour type setups as a surrogate for consumption-based pricing. So that's it, and talk to you later.
So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Richard Spires. I'm serving this year as second to Mitzi on the IAC side. So I'm called the Executive Vice Chair for this year, and I'll serve as the chair next year. So one of the things that Mitzi asked me to do was to help with our strategic planning process. We haven't done this in a number of years, and so I'm very pleased to be part of the team that is working on an updated ACT-IAC strategic plan. So I'm just going to take just a minute to tell you where we're at. This isn't really a forum right now for feedback, although I want to say we're an open organization. So if you have any ideas you'd like to give into the strategic planning process, you can come see me, you can see Ken, you can see Glenda, you can see Mitzi. We're all open to receiving your input. As far as what we're trying to achieve, really look at a 3 to 5 year time frame that will guide the organization. And with three major, if you will, planks or tenets that we're trying to achieve. One, the mission of the organization, and why certainly I'm involved and many of you, is that we're all about really helping government function more effectively, more efficiently, through the leverage of technology. And that doesn't mean we just focus only on technology. There's a lot to do that, and it really crosses, if you will, many of the functions and gets into the business and mission of government itself. There's lots of constituencies in the organization. I mean, we have obviously the government side, very, very large departments, very, very small organizations that we try to help. But we also have constituencies, obviously, on the IAC side. Very, very large organizations, private sector firms, but very different from each other, right? Everything from software and hardware product companies to consultancies. And so that's at the large scale, and then even we have organizations at a smaller scale. They have different needs, they have different desires of what they want out of the organization. And in fact, that's probably one of the biggest challenges we have, is how do we meet all those needs in a way that's compelling, that brings more people into the organization on both the government side as well as the industry side. And then the other thing, and I want to dwell on this, I mean, we are a healthy organization financially, but on the other hand, we're not, I mean, we're a nonprofit, but on the other hand, right now, just slightly, but our expenses are exceeding our revenue, right? So that's not usually a good thing for any organization. It is not way out of whack, but it is something that we're looking at, and it is something that we want to make sure that as we put the strategic plan in place, we've got a model that ensures that we're viable for the long term. And so that is something else that we're looking at. When you look at the timeline, we did engage a consultant to help us, Mr. Alan Gregerman, great guy. He actually came to our offsite for the executive committee of ACT-IAC back in June, and we spent a session with him on, if you will, kicking off this whole planning process. We've been doing a lot of interviews with these constituent groups that I mentioned. And we also have a smaller strategy planning working group. We spent an offsite day, a whole day, September 8th on this. And we hope to start rolling out some results to you at a high level. I'm not going to say everything's going to be baked by ELC 2017, but we certainly will be updating you then, and obviously finalizing things by the December timeframe. Okay? So with that, rather than taking any questions on that, I'm going to roll right into my other and more exciting thing that I'm going to do, because we've got a couple of great guests that have joined us, and I know that's why most of you are here, not to hear me speak, but to hear them speak. So with that, I would like to introduce to you Russ and Mike. You want to come on up? So Mitzi mentioned this already, but we're very welcome to Russ Roberts, who's serving as the acting CIO of TSA, and to Mike Brown, who's serving as the CIO at ICE. Two of the largest, most complex organizations, components as we call them, within DHS. And a special, Mike and I worked very, very closely together for years. And I want to give Mike a kudo from the standpoint of When I came into DHS as the CIO, Mike was already there, and he was running the day-to-day operations from the headquarters perspective. A tireless and thankless job, and he did a wonderful job at it, and it's always good to see executives in government do well. And for him to now step into a CIO role as a major component is a wonderful thing. And that's not to say, as it turns out, Russ and I really didn't have a chance to work together because of the timing of when we were together, or when you served versus when I served in the organization. So let's get right into it. And rather than me, you have their bios, they're in the program. But what I thought we would like to do is, it's always interesting to me to hear you guys introduce yourselves and what your path was to get where you're at. So maybe you can touch on that. And then segue into a little bit about what your major priorities are in your two roles. So, Russ, would you like to kick it off?
Sure. So I'm gonna have a hard time looking over here. There's a really bright light. Let me focus more on this side of the crowd. So my background is pretty varied. How I ended up as the CIO for TSA is a long and winding road. I started out after college going into the Air Force. I was an Air Force officer for 6 years. Got out and started working for some of the big four consulting, one of the big four consulting firms supporting the Department of Defense and other national security interests. After 9/11, I remember from the building that I was sitting in Tyson's Corner, I could see the smoke rising from the Pentagon. Didn't know how that was going to impact me myself. I went home and then started with helping what was the Immigration Service start the U.S. Visit Program. Because then me and a couple of other executives, there was 3 of us in the room, and my consulting firm was picked to help build that program. So I started working on that, and somehow I got invited to TSA back in 2003, and I never left. So I started there. My background was I owned a portfolio for criminal immigration and terrorism. Mostly what I had was all the terrorism cases, and I worked with the agency and the FBI primarily to determine what risks we were going to allow out at the airports and in the transportation critical infrastructure. So I worked my way through there, and then in the programs office, I was part of the FAMS as an executive for a while, part of the Intel group for a while. Secure Flight and our vetting IT systems fell under me, and then we transitioned that over into the CIO shop with Steve Rice and Joe Vaughn, were the AA and the deputy CIO at the time. When Joe left, I applied for a job to work with Steve, and I kind of found myself as the deputy CIO and then the acting CIO. Based on that, it's been an incredible journey. I've learned a lot, still learning a lot. I'm not the most top-end IT guy. You don't want me programming your systems, but I can run the business, and I really enjoy it.
Well, I started out my career with the Navy. I spent 21 years there, mostly as a civil servant. And I worked at a variety of acquisition commands. I worked for NAVSEA, SPA-WAR, and what was McCraddock, the Marine Corps acquisition organization. I also worked for the Naval Reserve Force, and ultimately ended up working for the Program Executive Office for IT at the Navy. That's the program office that did the Navy integrated network system, although I wasn't on that program. After that, I took a job at what was then the U.S. Customs Service, and was running the middleware organization there. Shortly afterwards, the permit hit, of course, everything changed. And Customs became CBP. I ended up in the operations business at Customs, running their networks and data center and service desks. And then sort of morphed into an enterprise role. At the time the department was formed, there really wasn't a very large CIO organization in DHS, and so the components were tasked with various pieces of the stand-up of the department's IT capabilities. And CBP and myself were tasked with things around data center and the network. And sort of worked my way into a job at headquarters, DHS headquarters, where for about 8.5 years I was involved in the data center and OneNet the classified networks, and probably the bane of my existence in that job was taking care of all of the 10,000 souls that make up the headquarters environment and what we lovingly call ALAM there, the largest density of political appointees and senior executives anywhere in the department. And it seemed like that rivaled the entire rest of the department for our attention, as Richard well knows. I remember many late night calls with the likes of the Secretary's Chief of Staff and so forth. And it was a great run. It really was. I think that anybody that's been involved in the stand-up or creation of a large organization will have battle scars, but lots of learning and lots of things to be proud of, and certainly that was my case. There was no common email system, there was no common network, there were no common data center services. There were competing